Jai Hind, dear children. Today we are going to study an important topic related to a history chapter, Nationalism in India. In this chapter, you have already studied many great incidents related to our freedom struggle, like the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, Khilafat movement, non-cooperation movement, Rowlatt Satyagraha, Gudam Hill rebellion, civil disobedience movement, Chauri Chaura incident, Salt Satyagraha, and many other great incidents related to our freedom struggle. And we studied many famous personalities related to all these. So now we are going to study in detail about the last topic related to the chapter Nationalism in India. That is the sense of collective belongings. From the topic name itself, we can understand that it tries to make us understand how we Indians develop a feeling of oneness among the people. It is that feeling which binds people of our country together, transcending all differences. A feeling of collective belongings implies a strong sense of feeling towards one's own country. And this sense of collective belongings came partly through the experience of united struggles. Because each walk of life in India reflected the signs of the colonial exploitation. The industrialists and the traders had restricted opportunities. The rich peasantry was laden with revenue demand. The educated class stood in queues for jobs. The small peasants had to pay many taxes. Laborers had low wages and bad working conditions. The leaders had limited opportunities to participate in the government. All these put an anger and dissent in the minds of the general people. By this time, people knew well the exploitative and the discriminative nature of the British rule. They became of the opinion that the colonial government is working here only for itself. It had nothing to offer towards the welfare of the Indian people in general. The colonial policy was based on the principle of racial discrimination. They believed Indians to be backward and primitive and incapable to run and share the government. This attitude of the colonial government made Indians to rethink about themselves. This was a scene when India saw the great leadership of Mahatma Gandhi. He took the weapon of Satyagraha. This experiment, as the people saw, was very successful in Champaran, Kheda, Ahmedabad, where Gandhiji started his early satyagrahas. The people had opportunities to gather behind the miraculous leadership of Gandhiji, who could give voice to their demands. So during this time, the nationalism spread when people began to believe that they are all part of the same nation. When they discover some unity that binds them together. Then another question arose here is that how the people develop the sense of collective belonging among themselves. How did the nation become a reality of unity in the minds of the people? Then how the people belonging to different communities, religions, language groups develop a sense of collective belongings or oneness among themselves. This sense of collective belonging came partially through the experience of united struggles. But there were also a variety of cultural processes through which nationalism captured people's imagination. That cultural process, what are the cultural processes that binds the people in India together, that create a sense of collective belonging in the minds of the people, that we are going to study in a detail. A variety of cultural processes play an important role in developing a sense of nationalism in India. The identity of the nation is most often symbolized in a figure or image. This helps create an image with which people can identify the nation. It was in the 20th century, with the growth of nationalism, that the identity of India came to be visually associated with the image of Bharat Mata. The image was first created by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. Then, who was Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay or Bankim Chandra Chatterjee? He was an Indian novelist, poet, and journalist. He was a Bengali author and poet. And he was a composer of Vande Mataram, originally in Sanskrit, personifying India as a mother goddess and inspiring activist during the Indian independence movement. And this Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay's pen name was Kamala Kant. And he wrote this Indian national anthem Vande Mataram. So once again, this Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay or Chatterjee, he was a Bengali author poet. At the same time, he was a famous journalist also. He was the composer of Vande Mataram, originally in Sanskrit. And he created the image of Bharat Mata just as a mother goddess and inspiring the activists during the Indian independence movement. Rabindranath Tagore was the principal artist and creator of the Indian Society of Oriental Art. In 1905, he painted the image of Bharat Mata. She is portrayed as having 4 hands with different elements in each. She is portrayed as an ascetic figure. She is calm, composed, divine, and spiritual. This mother figure can be seen as an evidence of one's nationalism. Mother figure shown as dispensing, learning, food, and clothing. This image showed Bharat to be divine and pure. Respect to this image came to be seen as a mean of giving respect to the nation. So, this is a famous image of Bharat Mata which gives a feeling of unity and nationalism in the minds of the Indians. Another cultural process which develop a sense of collective belongings among the Indians is the song, that is a Vande Mataram. Vande Mataram is a Sanskrit poem written by Bankim Chandra Chatterjee or Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay in 1870, which he included in his novel Anand Mad. The poem was first sung by Rabindranath Tagore in 1896. Anand Mad is a Bengali fiction written by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay and published in 1882. It is inspired by and set in the background of the Sannyasi rebellion in the late 18th century. So, as a part of the Sannyasi rebellion, he wrote this novel Anand Mad. It is considered one of the most important novel in the history of Bengali and Indian literature. Hail to the Mother, first song to represent Bengal or India, which is almost synonymous at that time. As far as nationalism is concerned, as the motherland was published in this novel. So, the second cultural process which develop a sense of feeling among the Indians is the Vande Mataram. It was written by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, and this novel was included in this his famous song was included in his famous novel Anand Mad, and the song was widely sung during the Swadeshi movement in Bengal. The third cultural process that developed a feeling of nationalism in the minds of the Indians is the Flocclora. Nationalism developed through revival of the Indian Flocclora in spreading the ideas of nationalism in India. Nationalists gathered Indian folk tales sung by bards as well as legends. They felt the need to preserve this folk tradition to discover national identity and restore a sense of pride in one's past. because the historians they are of the opinion that we want to record these folk tales and folk songs given which is giving the true picture of traditional culture that had been corrupted and damaged by the outside forces. In order to reserve a sense of pride, this preservation was essential. For example, in Bengal, Rabindranath Tagore, a famous personality, began collecting ballads, nursery rhymes, myths, and legends and led the movement for a folk revival. So, once again, in Bengal, Rabindranath Tagore began collecting ballads, nursery rhymes, and myths and led the movement for a folk revival. In Madras, Nadesha Shastri published a massive 4-volume work of Tamil folk tales named The Flocclora of Southern India. He believed that folklore was national literature and it was most trustworthy of people's thoughts and characteristics. So once again in Madras, Nadesha Shastri published a massive 4-volume work of Tamil folk tales named The Flocclora of Southern India. He believed that folklore was national literature. It was most trustworthy of people's thoughts and characteristics. As the nationalist movement developed, nationalist leaders became more and more aware of such icons and symbols in unifying people and inspiring in them a feeling of nationalism. So, the next great idea that developed a cultural importance in the minds of the people to have a sense of collective belongings is the creation of flag. During the Swadeshi movement in Bengal, a tricolor flag having the colors of red, green, and yellow was designed. It had 8 lotus representing 8 provinces of British India, and it had also a crescent moon representing Hindu and Muslims. So, once again, during the Swadeshi movement in Bengal, a tricolor flag was first designed, having the colors of red, green, and yellow. It had 8 lotus representing 8 provinces of British India and a crescent moon representing Hindus and Muslims. And in 1921, Gandhiji had designed the Swaraj flag. It was given a tricolor having the colors of red, green, and white, and a spinning wheel in the center representing the Gandhian idea of self-help. Carrying the flag, holding it aloft during marches became a symbol of defense for Gandhiji. So once again in 1921, Gandhiji had designed the Swaraj flag. It was given a tricolor having the colors of red, green, and white, and a spinning wheel in the center representing the Gandhian idea of self-help. Carrying the flag, holding it aloft during marches became a symbol of defense for Gandhiji. The fifth cultural process that developed an important role in the minds of the Indians for having a sense of collective belonging is the reinterpretation of history. Because by the end of the 19th century, many Indians began feeling that to instill a sense of pride in the nation, Indian history had to be thought about differently. The British saw Indians as backward and primitive, incapable of governing themselves. In response, Indians began looking into the past to discover India's great achievement. Many prominent writers wrote about the glorious development in ancient times when art and architecture, folklore, religion and culture, laws and philosophy, craft and trade had flourished. Then Swadeshi movement, non-cooperation movement, Khilafat movement, and Swaraj movement were based on the rich past of our country. But and now all these declined due to the policies of the colonial government that we the Indians to want to make others understand that we are doing through this reinterpretation of history. So the fifth idea is reinterpretation of history. Through this we want to make others understand how great is our past, because during the colonial period the Britishers they considered Indians as backward, primitive and incapable of governing themselves. So in response to their ideas, we the Indians began looking into the past to discover India's great achievement. Many prominent writers wrote about the glorious development in ancient times, like about our art and architecture, folklore, religion and culture, law, craft, philosophy, everything. And about the Swadeshi movement, non-cooperation movement, Khilafat movement, Swaraj movement were also the rich evidence of our past. So, and they want to make us understand that all this have been declined in our country now due to the policies of the colonial government. So, by studying this five cultural process, by understanding this and by giving importance to this, that means the first one, which is the first one, the images of Bharat Mata, then our famous song Vande Mataram, then about the folklore, then about the flag designed by Gandhiji, all that, and about this reinterpretation of history. From all these, we can develop a feeling of nationalism among ourselves. That is the main idea behind this sense of collective belongings. Next topic we want to study related to the chapter Nationalism in India was the Quit India movement. The Quit India movement was an important landmark in India's struggle for freedom from British colonization. It instilled a new confidence among the Indian masses and arose a spirit of total sacrifice in them. The main reason behind the Quit India movement was Gandhiji's dislike of the return of the Crips penetrating to the British government's draft declaration. So what is Crips mission? That we want to understand first. In March 1942, British government sent Stafford Cripps, a member of the war cabinet, to India with key objective to secure Indians' cooperation and support for British war efforts. This mission sought to negotiate an agreement with Indian leaders from all parties. But what happened? That became a failure, isn't it? The effects and the Cripps mission became a failure, and the effects of the Second World War also created widespread discontentment in India. This led Gandhiji to launch a movement calling for complete withdrawal of the British from India. The Congress Working Committee, in its meeting in Wardha on 14th July 1942, passed the historic Quit India resolution, demanding the immediate transfer of power to Indians and quit India. Quit India movement was a movement started by Mahatma Gandhi on 8th August 1942 during the Second World War, asking for an end to British rule in India. That was the main objective behind this Quit India movement. The movement was started in a speech in Bombay session of All Indian Congress Committee, where Mahatma Gandhi asked Indians to do or die. That was a famous slogan taken by Gandhiji in this Bombay session as a part of this Quit India movement, which is a famous slogan, do or die. What is the meaning of this slogan, do or die? It means we shall either free India or die in the attempt. That is the main idea behind this slogan, do or die. The call for quit India almost brought the state machinery to a standstill in large parts of the country as people voluntarily threw themselves into the thick of the movement. How? People observed hartals, demonstrations, processions, and which were accompanied by national songs and slogans. The movement was truly a mass movement with the participation of many ordinary people, students, workers, peasants, and many great leaders like Jayaprakash Narayan, Ayuna Asif Ali, Ram Manohar Lohia, Madangi Hazra, and Rama Devi, and many other great leaders. And the Congress agreed that Mahatma Gandhi should lead a non-violent mass movement and pass their decision as the Quit India resolution on August 8th. But what happened is that late that night, Gandhiji and many other members of the Congress were indeed arrested and imprisoned under the Defence of India because the Britishers they were not ready to leave the country. So they refused to grant independence until the war ended. Because of that reason, they arrested Gandhiji and many other leaders. In short, we can say that the Congress under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi tried to inculcate people's grievances into organized movements for independence. Through such movements, the nationalists tried to forge a national unity. Different groups and classes participated in these movements with their own aspirations and expectations. Their grievances were wide-ranging. The Congress continuously tried to resolve differences. They also tried to ensure that the demand of one group did not alienate another. The unity within the movement often broke down. The activity of the Congress and the national unity were interrupted by fears of disunity and inner conflict between groups. So, apart from all this, Gandhiji tried his level best to unify all classes and groups in India, to fight against the Britishers and to gain our freedom. So just have a quick recall about what we studied in this video. We studied about the sense of collective belongings, how the Indians developed the feeling of nationalism or national spirit in them with the help of this sense of collective belongings. That means how the cultural process played a major role in developing the idea of nationalism in the minds of the Indians. For that we have studied 5 main ideas. The first one is image of Bharat Mata. Second one is the song Vande Mataram. The third one is the Flocclora. Fourth one about the flag, the Swadeshi flag. And the last one is a reinterpretation of history. All this help us to develop a feeling of nationalism in our minds. And then we studied about the Quit India movement, the importance of the Quit India movement, and about the famous slogan taken by Gandhiji in this Quit India movement, that is do or die. Then we studied how Gandhiji tried to unite the different types and classes and varieties of peoples with their different grievances, everything together to fight against our common enemy, that is the Britishers. Dear children, watch the video very carefully, copy down all the important points and read the textbook 3 or 4 times. Okay, thank you.